Hello and welcome yet again to Forgotten Temples with myself, Mr. B. I have something utterly unique. Utterly. I have travelled tens and tens and tens of thousands of miles. In fact, I do that in a single year. I have seen hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of temples in all flavours and colours and all different designs and all different eras, built across many centuries. But I've never ever seen one of these, and I'm elated. Now let's admit it, it's not very interesting. What we have here is something pretty much of a crucifix. It is just one solid mass. Now the first thought that I had as I walked towards it is, my lordy lorks, that is one hell of a substantial base. I wonder what temple went on top of there. Well, guess what? No temple. This is as it should be. And it was only later I discovered what this in fact is. And it's brought a real smile to my face. Because if you have an imagination, this thing literally lights up. Firstly, let's give you some perspective as to how big this ancient structure is. And I'm going to give you just one more clue, and that is there will never ever be any offerings left here. This serves no religious purpose. It's fantastic. It's the first proper, fully functional industrial thing I have ever seen. Now, if I go up these steps, you get an idea as to how big this is. So what do we have for clues so far? We know, well, I will tell you now, it was built in the 13th century. It has a functional purpose. It is not religious in any way. And we're right next to a river. Now, hopefully, you know exactly what I'm going to say next. This Goliath of a structure is amazingly a pier. It is just huge. It is an absolutely vast lump of stone. And I tell you what, the foundations below this thing must be incredible. Because it stood here for nigh on 1,000 years and it hasn't moved a single inch. Now bear in mind it has to put up with centuries of monsoon rains and unbelievable heat. This furnace type heat we have here, for we're so close to the equator. And no matter what the wind, the rain and the hurricane throws at it, it's not moved an inch. But it's not that that gets me excited. What gets me excited is what happened here. This is what it's all about. This beautiful river. Right next to it is our ancient pier. Look at its symmetry. From this distance you can really see that thing hasn't moved at all. But the river is a little bit of distance from the pier. Now that's understandable. Rivers change their course naturally. But my guess is if we apply logic, the water would have gone up and down. So what potentially would have come out here is a wooden jetty. There's no point trying to control the river. You go to the river. It doesn't come to you. But more interestingly is, what did the river bring? What it brought was quite simply everything. I mean, you think about it, right? This mighty Khmer Empire, it stretched its trading routes all the way to India, to China and beyond. A big lump of the world was accessible to this incredible empire. So what came down this river? Oh yes, there was goods, there was gold, there was jewel, there was finery and clothing, there was new fashions and exciting new words to be learnt from distant lands. But more importantly, you can look at this as an information superhighway. It's a bit like the internet, this river. because down it came knowledge from other lands. And let's just take one example. I mean, for instance, if they've found a way of curing infections with a higher rate of success, and that information is in a man's head, you know, a medical man, and he lands right here, and he steps off the boat, and he heads off into this new land with this information that he can pass to others, then my God, everything changes. And when I say changed everything, I mean it. Because you think if that medical man came from a far off land and he knew how to deal with infections more effectively, he didn't save hundreds of lives or thousands, he potentially saved tens of thousands of lives. So this here is in fact a portal. It brings in information into the mighty empire. So when we look upon this river, we can only imagine as to who came down it, what came down it. But when there is ingress, there is also egress. People would have left here. They would have been leaving their homelands, and maybe they themselves were off to foreign lands. How did they get on? Where did they end up? Of course, we will never know. But if you have an imagination like mine, holy cow, does this river of knowledge ever speak to me? This is history. It's just the base of a once mighty pier. But the true story is in these murky waters. It is absolutely fascinating to me. And I very much hope that you have enjoyed this little trip round an ancient site that's far away in a mystical land. And if by chance you could help me build up the world's first ever video library of sites such as this, then I would be truly grateful. And how you do that is go to www.patreon.com/temples. As simple as that. And it only remains for me, as always, to wish you absolutely nothing. But of course, the very best. Now you be sure to take good care now. And I'll tell you how I'm ending this video, and that's just as some of those ancients did, who stepped from that pier onto a wooden boat and headed off down this river into the unknown. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to head off just as they did.